there's no doubt that we are going through a huge shift in the economic market. Whether some people want to call it a silent recession, or some people are talking about a bigger collapse or frantic, money pulling out of banks. At the end of the day, as business owners, we need to have a plan in place. The same way that a lot of businesses did not have a plan in place when COVID happened back in 2020, the shift of going more digital, there always needs to be a plan in place when we're facing any adversity in any market. Today, I've asked Robert Garcia to come back, and we're actually going to have a pretty cool announcement to make about the future of the Brand Builder podcast show. But for now, grab your cup of coffee, grab some water, grab some popcorn, and join us as we talk through how to write a business plan when preparing for a shift in the economic market. Welcome to the Brand Builder Podcast. I'm your host, Amir Tabrizi. I'm a side hustle digital marketer turned agency owner who has managed over $2 billion in marketing budgets. I'm obsessed with the brand building process through video content, social media, and all things organic, leveraging search engine optimization and the power of Google. Every week here on the Brand Builder Podcast, we dive deep into the dynamic realm of digital marketing, unveiling the tools, strategies, and insights that can empower your brand in today's digital-centric world. Not just go over some quick hacks and tricks that will yield you no long-term growth. Whether you're a startup looking to make a splash or an established brand aspiring to reach new heights, our podcast is here to illuminate the path towards your success. So stay tuned to my workshop-style solo shows with the occasional in-depth interviews with industry's experts. We don't just talk about digital marketing. We decode it, demystify it, and help you leverage it for your brand's growth. So stay tuned into Brand Builders Podcast and embark on your journey towards becoming a titan in the digital marketing arena. Welcome back to another episode of the Brand Builder Podcast. We're actually doing two cool new things this time around. One, Robert and I have a camera that's facing at us right now, so hopefully some of you will be able to see this on video form as well. You'll see I'm dressed up in a hat and a sweatshirt, and Robert came, dressed up much better than I have. Maybe that's the identity of the show, that I'm going to be the slouchy one and you're going to be the more cleaned up one. But yeah, we wanted to bring you another aspect of the show, which is through video. So you can find that video on YouTube. We'll post it on our other channels as well. And we'll probably post it we'll link it at the bottom of our podcast in case anybody wants to see it there. But we have a cool announcement to make. I approached Robert a few weeks ago, and I asked him if he would be willing to join me as a co-host on this show. The reason I did that is because he brings such value and insight to what we're doing in two different ways. One, he has lived and kind of breathed through the process of branding and has created a really, really cool brand for himself, and actually has launched his own real estate team recently. And I think the operational sales background and that this guy has, I think it's huge to add on to what we're trying to give people, because branding, yes, there's a lot of marketing that goes in it, but also the way you brand yourself is through the communication you have too. And then there's these shifts in the market with sales and the different conversations you need to have. And we say that this shows for anybody who's an entrepreneur. We're small business owners, and a lot of small business owners are doing the sales, the operations, and the marketing as well. So I said, you know what, Robert, why don't you join me? Let's do this together. So the Brand Builder Podcast is no longer a solo show. We didn't live out to be a solo show for that long anyways. And so I've asked Robert to join me. From this point moving forward, you will see Robert on our episodes. You'll see us live. You'll see us on video form. So we're going to try to bring you more and more content. But RG, or you'll hear me call him that as well. Welcome, man. Thank you for agreeing to be with us on this show moving forward.
Thank you. I didn't think I will make it to another invitation past the first one, because last one I did talk a lot about things that, sometimes can be boring, but I will say that are necessary. It's like, going to the doctor when you're a little kid and you're going to your pediatrician, you're going to have to get the shot, right? I mean, it just know how it is. It's painful. You don't like it, but it's good for you. So yeah, a lot of the things that we're going to, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be part of this wonderful production of the Brand Builders Podcast, it's a huge thing, because I listen to a lot of podcasts out there, and there are very good ones when it comes to branding. There are good ones when it comes to marketing, and there are good ones when it comes to operations. But I don't know that there is one that that has everything that we're going to be talking here, because everything goes hand to hand, right? Your operations has to also understand what the marketing is doing. The marketing also has to understand what the sales is doing. So it is just like a hand in hand. And I think there is a disconnect out there in the world that we don't have that. So thank you, Amir, for I don't have a cool, AT for you, because that doesn't sounds like an ATM. So I will keep calling you Amir.
There you go. Yeah, I know. You guys will hear me sometimes call him RG. That's just the nature of having known this guy and gotten closer with this guy over the last 6-7 years. So we're glad to have you. We hope that the video format that we're bringing for you is also helpful as well. On the video side, you'll see us sit down, you'll see us stand up, you'll see us do all this stuff, so you get to see the natural movement as we progress through this show. So there's a shift in the economic market.
There it is, indeed. Yeah, a big one.
Yeah. And so economic shifts are inevitable, right? Like they're going to happen. There's no such thing as like everything just even keel. It's the nature of the beast. And businesses just need to prepare in order to succeed, right? Like failure of preparation is the first reason why a lot of small business owners fail. And that's simple. A lot of them fail in the first 5 years because they are not prepared. And so a well-written business plan can help you navigate any economic climate, right? If you know your numbers, if you know what's coming in, what's going out, that's great. But you also need to have a plan in place, because in any economic change, honestly, in any change, the behavior of the buyer changes as well, right? The buyers don't buy the same way. Everybody changes. We all look at different ways to buy. We all look at different things to do. So today we're going to talk about that plan and kind of break down like, what is a plan? Why is it important to have a business plan and preparing in a shift in the market, how to write a business plan, and then tips on writing a business plan when you're preparing for a shift, because you can write a plan when the market is hot. Like for example, for realtors, if you wrote a plan back in 2020 or 2021, you had an influx of cash coming in, right? Anybody was able to sell hundreds of thousands of dollars over, tens of thousands of dollars over. But right now there's a shift happening. So the behavior has to change. And so it is in any market or any industry. So let's go through what is a business plan. And then for you, Robert, I would love to hear from your perspective when we've kind of talked about what a business plan is how would you, as someone who has managed many businesses, who's managing your own business now, and how are you planning for this economic shift, right? So a business plan is exactly what it sounds like. It's a written document that describes your business goals and how you plan on achieving them. So I want to sell, $30,000 a month in agency services, and the way I plan to get there is X, Y, and Z, right? So you have those plans that should be there. It should cover everything from your products or services to the marketing and the financial strategies that you're going to use. So how are you going to market these, services? How are you going to market these products? How are you going to sell the products? And what financial strategies you'll come out with it? A good business plan is essential for any business, but it's especially important for businesses when you're preparing for a shift in the market. So you're a business owner, right? You are a real estate agent. You come from a long line of business owners, with your dad owning his own business. You own your own business now. How do you approach even writing a business plan? Just forget about the fact that there's an economic shift, right? Like, let's just go with the basics. How do you, as Robert Garcia, approach putting together a business plan? And how did you approach to do that when you were looking to start your own real estate team?
That's a really good question. $1 million here, and the reality it is that most people actually fail because they don't put a plan of action together. If just look at things that I'm sure you've gone gotten on an airplane, that you get all seated, all adjusted back there, and the ladies just bring in the drinks. But what you don't know is the pilot on the front has a checklist, has a plan of action that is going through the checklist just to make sure that from the moment those wheels take off from from the airport, that you're going to make it to the next place. And on the way there's going to be turbulence, there's going to be storms, maybe there's going to be other airplanes that are flying too low, too high. So you have to adjust. But if you don't have a plan, imagine a pilot just getting on the plane, taking that plane off in A380, going from here to Germany, And, how is they going to navigate all the different changes, right? So that's what happens to a lot of people. They say, well, I got my license as a real estate agent, as a pilot. Now I can fly. No, you cannot fly. You only have the ability to now call yourself, a realtor, a pilot, or whatever. Then when the experience comes up, the most important thing is to understand in the business plan your strengths and your weaknesses. That's the most important things. So on the strengths, you want to load it up on that side, and on the weaknesses, maybe you need to delegate some of those things, hire somebody on a part-time basis. Maybe you're just going to hire a company to do it for yourself. Maybe you're going to do some and other things. So just need to know those things, and then build it from the standpoint of what do you enjoy doing the most, because some people, the way they do it is they just build it just to build something. And then first thing that they know is like, okay, here's my task. And the real estate world is like, okay, in order for me to achieve X many transactions, which equal at least X many dollars in commissions, I have to make, 50 phone calls a day. And people are like, I hate making phone calls. I don't want to do phone calls, right? So but if you enjoy meeting other people, so why don't you do door knocking? Why don't you do 50 door knocking? So why don't you just do like a get together with your past clients, a sphere of influence, your friends, maybe just do, like 5 coffee appointments a week. So do the things that you really enjoy the most and you are good at it. And then those that you're not good at, for example, the marketing, then you delegate something like that to agency 270 that they can do for you. All of the posting of social media, the trends, the stats, your presentation, your postcards, your video editing. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be stuck on those little things. That's why, it is, you work that way. So that's kind of like the beginning of how you start with a business plan, understanding who you are, what you enjoy doing and what you hate doing and what you should delegate so that you can continue to grow. But you're going to say, well, Robert, I'm starting my business. I really don't have a lot of money. Well, you don't have a lot of money, but you have time. So now you have to use leverage from the time that you have and do the things that really will bring the most revenue to your company.
Right. I mean, I think one of the things you said, and I would definitely tell people to do, is like a SWOT analysis. Do a SWOT analysis of you and your business. And don't be afraid to be honest, right? Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the threats? What are the opportunities you have and what are your threats, right? Like, my strength is I can tell you how to do marketing like the back of my hand. However, when it comes to operational stuff, I'm not that great at it. So you bring somebody like a Robert Garcia and who can help you with da-da-da-da-da-da. Then the opportunities that come out of that is if I now have a strong marketing plan and I kind of band-aid or I fix my weakness by bringing somebody on who can do those things, then my opportunity is to now 3 to 4 times my business because I'm no longer working in my business, I'm working on my business. And the threats that are out there are other competitors that are willing to grow faster than I am, or other competitors that are willing to understand that there's a behavior change. When there's a market change, there's also behavior change in buying, right? Like the biggest thing we see is like, and I hear this a lot from business owners, is like, there's just no buyers out there. Well, there's buyers out there. You're just not looking for them at the right spot. Like there is always a person who's going to need to buy or sell a home in real estate, right? Where you find them is now different. You were able to find them before through, let's just say, buying leads online. But now the shift is you now get them because you are providing content online.
Exactly.
Right? So you're not even like, I think this recently just happened with you, is like somebody gave you a call. They'd already bought or sold. They had some questions. They needed a realtor. The first thing they did, they went on Google, they looked you up, and then you came up, and then they called you. Right. You had nothing to do with that transaction that had recently happened.
Exactly.
But they found you. So I think the buyer behavior is changing, and the fact that we are not willing to look at our SWOT analysis of what are the strengths and weaknesses of our businesses, the opportunities we're letting go, and the threats that are taking over those opportunities is going to be detrimental to anyone's business.
Exactly. And in a market like this where things are changing, so for example, we're having a big issue of affordability for most of American families, right? So think about somebody that, it's in their late 20s, early 30s, out of college, tested a couple, worked in a couple of places where it's, it gained some experience. Now they feel like, okay, we're ready to settle, but we want to buy a house. I mean, when the average house in United States price is about $460,000, it used to be about $340,000. Like 3 years ago. So just look at it. So now these people, not only that, but interest rates are in 8% and in a quarter right now. So, it just makes it very difficult for a lot of people. So a lot of people will be very discouraged. And that's what a word that is trending right now. People are very discouraged. There is no motivation, because when things don't go the way you want it, it's when people feel like, oh, I think they're. So what happens is they're just missing an opportunity. That's what I'm saying. When things are easy, it's fine. I mean, realtors, when market is easy, it's like the low hanging fruit. You just go and stand below a tree that has fruit, and it's just so loaded with good fruit that the branches are trying to give in, and they just come down, and people just start picking them up. But now it's the realtor now has to climb the tree because the fruit is all the way to the top. And climbing the tree, you have to develop skills. You're going to have scratches. Maybe you're going to have some bees that are going to come and attack you, ants, and so on. But you got to get it and go out there. But before you want to climb that tree, you have to prepare yourself with the tools. Should you wear long sleeves or short sleeves because of the potential I'm going to get bitten by ants or bees? Should I have better shoes for this thing? So what I think is right now, it's the exciting part of where we are right now is that the true professionals will get better at it. And the ones that never decided to invest in improving their own skills are going to, on their own, leave the industry. And that happens for everything. I mean, I'm talking, and this is not all real estate. So this is very important for you to understand right now where you're standing, understand what has been working previously may not continue to work, or you need to make adjustments. So very important with the business plan. Like that pilot I told you, you are so high up in the skies, 40,000 feet up in the skies, and all of a sudden you see a big storm. Now you have to change the plan. Now you have to call the closest tower, say, hey, we have big storm ahead of us. What should I do right now? And then they tell you, go this direction, go this, change your altitude, go climb higher, come down. So you got to make those adjustments in this kind of market. If you're not willing to make these adjustments, I have really, really bad news for you. You're going to fail. And failure sometimes is not an option.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of small business owners, they've put their livelihood in this new venture, and failure is definitely not an option for a lot of people. I mean, it's just the cream of it. But one of the things I'll say, and I'll wrap it up and I'll move on to the next step, is when we're going to get into how to write a business plan, is I think be the educator in a time of fear, right? Like everything is dark and frantic, and things are not always right in the world. With just everything that happens. But if you're the educator in that time of fear, like people will look at you as, you know what? Yes, there is times of panic, but if we follow this person who has this much experience or understands X, Y, and Z and is the subject matter expert, then it's easier to navigate some of those waters and be able to say, you know what, this is what we can do to help, or this is what we can do to kind of move through this. And, I hear a lot of lenders say, date the rate, marry the house. and it like, it irks me, but I also get it at the same time. Like, yes, you can always refinance, but when the difference between a home is the same price home between 2020 to now is, an extra like $1,500-$1,600 in monthly mortgages, why am I dating a rate that I don't know when it's going to change, right? So I think like that's also part of business planning, is that if you're just going to be repeating something that has no merit behind it, or that has no, and I'm sure if there's lenders listening to this, I'm sure you're probably going to, you're going to have your opinion on this, and that's fine. I mean, we're all entitled to it, but it has to make sense at the end of the day, right? Like just coming out and saying, date the rate, marry the house, like cool. But if I can't afford the dates, then what am I like? This marriage is set up for disaster from now, right? So yeah. I think it's just understanding your finances.
This is like dating a high maintenance person on the first date, and then rather than you going to like to eat to a restaurant that it's more like Chili's or something like that, Silver Diner, this person says, hey, take me to McCormick's Schmicks, right? Or something along those lines. So yeah, you got to understand really where you are. And honestly though, there is a plan for everything in life, believe it or not. There is always a plan for everything in life. And those that like to just go and live like a solo Lone Rangers, I think that, sometimes they fail, sometimes they don't, but you should have a plan for it.
So before we get into kind of how do you write one, I do have some things I want to ask you.
Okay.
What are some ways that you can identify an economic trend or a shift? Like what does Robert Garcia look at as not just a business owner, but just as a dad of two and as a husband? Like, what do you look at when it comes? Like, how do you identify? Yes, there is this economic shift happening.
Well, numbers speak for themselves. So you always have to look at, as it is right now, we just came from a very high inflation. It's still, we're not out of the woods, but it's high inflation. So that's trend number one, right? I mean, let's just be honest. Houses have gone appreciated between 15 and 20% every year for the last 2-3 years, but salaries have not gone that high. So when you know that is that huge discrepancy, you know that something is going to happen, something is going to break. That all has to be according to, if salaries go up, then maybe houses can go up. But, we're still paying around here, $4 a gallon for the gasoline. And some places like California, people are paying $7. So when you're still making the same kind of money and you're paying that, there's something is there. So you got to look for the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. Not necessarily I can say I'm good at math, but I like to digest the numbers and understand where things are. And once you understand where things are, then you can make adjustments accordingly to also, when I saw last year, when they said the Federal Reserve say, hey, we're going to start hiking the interest rates and not by 0.25%, 0.75%. These guys are on a mission to do some damage, right? So they were coming, and they'd rather just have some temporary damage and bring down inflation. They had inflation out of control, like it's happening in Argentina, that is like 3,000% has an increase in the last probably 12, 18 months. So once you look at those things, then you can start making adjustments and spending adjustments, saving adjustments, getting rid of things that you maybe have not been using. Realtors are well known for buying shiny things that they are never going to use in the entire lives.
Shiny object syndrome.
Oh, yes. So there you go. They get the phone call from the person. And just today, if you buy this with us today, we're going to give you're going to waive these fees, blah, 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 and they give you all these things. Yeah. And like, oh my gosh, it's a good deal. Let's just buy it. And they just go ahead and buy these type of things. But in reality, it is that they're just buying. So just look at and again, if you have an operating agreement, and then you have a business plan, and then you know what tools you need or you don't. And those tools that you don't need, start getting rid of them. Or this is a good time to go back and negotiate. I'll give you guys a tip, and I don't know if I've said it here before, but I know I've said it on my videos. If you're looking to buy, let's say, an email server like, I'm going to say MailChimp or Constant Contact, something along those lines, right? And you go and create an account and you put something in your cart because you're going to buy that service. And let's say it's to be $39 a month, something along those lines that you're going to be paying. You want the month-to-month rate. And you put it on your cart, but you don't complete the checkout, okay? So what happens at that point, the company has a hot lead over there that is not taking action. And they know through their metrics and KPIs and all those things. So at that point, what happens is they go ahead and very soon, like within an hour or 2 hours, they send you an email. Hey, if you check out right now, we'll give you 10, 15, 20% discount, right? So take advantage of things like that right now. It's a good time to renegotiate, your services with your providers, maybe you're split with your broker. I mean, a lot of things that you can, just do it. People are afraid sometimes to do those things because, they won't do it. Well, you don't know. If you haven't tried, call them. And I've seen lenders helping people to renegotiate their rates, and there's a big savings. So good time right now to do that.
Absolutely. I do want to get into how to write a business plan, but as always, we do have a sponsor. So let's take a second to hear from the sponsor of our show. My name is Amir Tabrizi, and I am the owner and the chief growth officer here at Agency 270. Agency 270 is a full-service digital marketing team. We focus on search engine optimization, paid ads, your Google business profile, videos, video editing and optimization, posting your videos, social media management, and podcast recording and editing. Why we do what we do is because we want to help you and your message to get out in front of the world. We want to make sure that we're highlighting our clients so that they are the consumer's choice. We do that through the power of digital marketing. Ask yourself this question. If you go onto Google right now and type in your name or type the problem that you solve and you're not coming up as one of the first 2-3 choices, there's a problem there. You are losing out business to your competitor. Don't settle for next to best. Don't settle for second. Don't settle for third. Let us help you get you to the number 1 spot on Google. Give me a call today. Go on our website at agency270.com. Send us an email at marketing@agency270 or give us a call 301-310-6148. Again, that's 301-310-6148. Back to our show. Welcome back. We've covered a good amount of stuff so far in the first 20-something minutes of the show. We talked about what is a business plan if you're new or if you just joined us in the middle. I don't know why you would be listening to us from the middle, but hey, sometimes you want to skip forward. What we've really covered is what is a business plan, why it's important. We talked about the importance of a SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we really talked about being the educator in the time of fear, especially with all the unknowns that are going on within the shifting of the market, right? So I want to get into how to write a business plan. There are a few components that go into writing a business plan. There's your executive summary. So you're talking about, this is a 1-page overview of your entire business plan. It includes your company's mission and vision, your products, your services, your target market, and your financial projection. So if you essentially take a 1-pager and you say, explain your company to me in a 1-page, that's where it all should be. More often than not, I think people tend to just skip over the mission and the vision, right? And I think that does hurt people because people buy from people that they like and can resonate with, especially in a shifting of this market. So I think really finding the time to put together, like, what's your mission, what's your vision, what's your why, right? We all, like Simon Sinek says, like, the why is the center of the member, like it's the nucleus of everything you do. Why do you do what you do? Why do I have an agency? Because I want to make sure that small, medium-sized businesses are as successful as those big Fortune 500 companies through the simplistic of using branding and marketing and building the strategic and digital together, right? Like, I'm not the only agency owner. There's tons of business owners out there, but the people that resonate with me and work with us as the Agency 270 is because they resonate with who I am and what my why is. Like, the same thing as goes on. So I would definitely suggest sitting down and really thinking about what's your why. Like, why do you do what you do? The what and how is not irrelevant. It's relevant, but it's not as relevant as what it is. And so I think that's an important one. Your company's description. This is pretty it's pretty generic. Like, what do you do? This company, the section essentially provides more details about the company. If you've been in the industry for 20 something years, if you have employees that do X, Y, and Z that were former whatever they were. So I think those are the places that's important. We're going to dive into 4 things: the ops plan, the marketing plan, the finances, and the marketing analysis. But I want to go through these, and then I'll ask you some of those questions. And then you have your market analysis. So this is essentially what your target market, who your target market is, what is your audience. And we'll talk at a later episode on how to properly use it, like choose an audience or how to target an audience, because I think that's huge in this shifting market. The product or the service you sell, whether it's a SaaS, so a software as a system, whether it's a book you're selling, whether it's an agency perspective or a real estate perspective, what it is that you sell, you need to have a marketing plan. So how are you going to get your product or your service in front of your people, your target audience, your operation plan, essentially how you plan to produce and deliver what you say you're selling, because I think that's huge as well. And then your financial plan. This is your bread and butter. If you don't know your P&Ls, if you don't know what your profit and losses are, if you don't know what's coming in, what's going out, you are in a world of trouble. But let's start something that's near and dear to your heart, an operational plan, right? And feel free to add whatever I just said to some of the things I said. I know I kind of breezed through it, but I really wanted to focus on the ops, marketing, finances, and the marketing analysis. You live and breathe the whole world of operations, right? You've built systems for, companies doing over 150 million in revenue every year, with, incomes of 2 million and plus and so on and so forth. So help me understand, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, what is an operational plan and why is it important?
So that's a good question. So an operational plan is basically your structure. As Amir said, how are you planning to deliver? So if you put it in some simple terms, let's just look at FedEx or UPS, right? The warehouse and the conveyor belts and the people that work over there and the trucks all the way until the package is delivered. That's the operations. That's right there is the operations. But it is more than that. What happens, if a truck gets a flat tire? What happens if a truck is not working? Do we have a backup truck for that route on that day? So it's basically the same way to what it is for operations. A lot of people fail to prepare and having an operations plan. Why? Because they don't know how the business work. I mean, let's just be honest. They just don't know. Like, they were trained, I'm going to speak for real estate. Hey, your goal is to meet as many people as you can, talk to as many people, and then write their names and information, and then just stay in touch with them until they tell you, get the heck out of my face. I don't want to talk to you anymore, right? So that is really not an operations plan. That's just an idea. That's just a concept. So the idea should be like, okay, how am I going to reach to these people? Okay. So is it going to be through social media? Is it going to be through direct email, like inbound, outbound? Is it going to be like a door knocking? It's going to be mailers. Is it going to be door hangers? Am I going to do events? Am I going to do seminars, webinars, and blah, 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 right? All those things, that's how you're going to get them. Once they click on the system, the information you put out there, they scan the QR code, and then they wanted to speak with you, then where do they go, right? Do they go into a CRM? Do they go into a piece of paper? Do they go into an Excel sheet? Where do they go, actually? So once you have acquired this information, you need to qualify. Are they at the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel? Are they just suspects, right? They just don't even qualify to go into a funnel, right? So who they are. And then once you understand who they are, what persona they are, what they're looking for, can you actually help this person, right? And if you can help this person, then you have to create a system to stay in touch with this person, right? If somebody says, hey, I think I'm looking about selling my house in the spring of 2024, well, now is probably the time for you to be talking to this person more often than you can imagine. This is when I will consider that less than 6 months. It's a hot lead. So this person should go into your database and you should have some kind of touches to go with them every 2 weeks. And say, well, Robert, that's pretty intense. I said, well, yeah, these people can make a decision to hire a professional based on, I mean, they're ready, they're ready to go. So the more they see you, the more they hear you, the more value you bring, you stop by and do all these things, the more it is. And then you put it in that system. Now, once they say, okay, Rob, we're ready to go with you or whoever it is, and let's just meet together. And then that goes into a whole nother operation. So you got to understand when they come to you, where they're going to go, right? That's the operation. So if you don't have an operations plan, I think you should Google for something. You should go and get something online that it's free. I'm sure that at some point we maybe think about offering a free draft on from the website, right? Okay. That people can download. So Amir's going to work on that so that you guys can at least have the basic concept on how you can download something. If you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to any of us. I'm sure Amir will put out the information where you guys can get a hold of us, and more than happy to talk about that. If you have stuck on, putting one together, again, more than happy to give you some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do some. We'll have some lives coming up as well on Wednesdays. I think we're going to try to shoot for it to kind of go through certain things. One thing I will challenge you on, though, is that you mentioned a funnel. I think that whole idea of putting people in a funnel just doesn't work anymore. No. I don't think the friction way of putting people in the funnel, right? Like you have the top of the funnel and then it keeps like pushing people to the next stage and next stage. It doesn't work anymore because we are so used to buying things in a frictionless way, right? Like you can go on your phone right now within the next 3 minutes. You can order whatever it is you want from Amazon. You get to do it on your time, on your terms, on your searches, and then everything is just produced to you. So I think if we're really talking about building out plans, I think people need to stay away from the whole idea of a funnel, of a sales funnel, and they really need to look at the Flywheel method. We have videos about the Flywheel method, but if you just even go on Google and type in Flywheel method, you'll see the difference of a sales funnel and a flywheel. And the whole thing, the whole purpose behind the flywheel is the frictionless way of buying things, right? The same way that Toys R Us didn't shift to the change of the market, or Blockbuster didn't change to the shift of the market, and they didn't look at their behavior of their consumer, which was their whole thing with Blockbuster was like, people love to come in and grab a movie and then go home, right? Like, yeah, I love that when I was in high school or in middle school and so on and so forth, and being able to go to I'm gonna go to the Kentlands Blockbuster, pick this up and go home, like it was great, but it doesn't work like that anymore, right? Like that Kentlands Blockbuster is now a Chick-fil-A. Right. So like it just doesn't work that way anymore.
It's funny you're mentioning Chick-fil-A because they just opened a new one here in Gaithersburg. And it's interesting because now it used to be you have the drive-through, you come over and you place your order and then you move to the next window. They'll bring the food to you. Now they have people outside with iPads coming
taking your order.
Taking your orders, coming to your car. So you can only imagine it took them some time to understand and go through that shift, because they now wanted to make sure that the person doesn't even have to stick their head out of the window to say, hey, can I get some fries and this? Now, like, they can stay inside their car, whether it is raining, it's snowing, it's cold, it's hot, and they just open their window and somebody's with an iPad just taking the order, and then, hey, okay, somebody's going to, swipe your card on the next window. So the behavior of how people are consuming things and services, it keeps changing.
Right.
And if you're not ready to make adjustments, I have some bad news for you.
You're not gonna make it.
Yep.
I will say though, when those people approach your car, it kind of freaks me out. I'm like I don't know what I want to order now. I need the menu, so I do go into a moment of panic. But I think that's just more me. But there's kind of a two-way on this as well. The next thing we're going to talk about is a market analysis and then your marketing. So unless you happen to be the first person who's ever have created the product or the service that you're going after, the first place you should start is Google the product or the service you sell, and then look at the people that are ranking high. Look away from the people that are spending ads. Like, you'll see the ad mark, and then I would just go on to the next person. It doesn't say sponsor to ad. And then look at the first 5. What do they offer? How are they offering it? That's your competitor. Mm-hmm. That's who you have to compete with, right? So if your pricing is better, find that out. If your product is better, find that out. If your product is the exact same thing and your pricing is the same exact thing, well, like, why do people want to choose you? So understand your market from a competitor perspective, but also understand why you do what you do, because that will help you when it comes to a market analysis of, these are the people I want to go after. These are the certain things I want to do, right? Like, within the agency or within what you're doing is, like, you have a specific persona you go after. You have a specific audience you go after. I don't go after Fortune 500s. I don't go after the bigger conglomerates of companies that, sure, their marketing budget may be higher. My focus with the agency is much more on solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and small business owners looking to get into that medium world and surviving and making, like, using digital media to succeed. Like, simple as that. Strategy and digital meet. That's it. That's our tagline, right? So that can then lead to your marketing plan, right? So then that goes into your marketing plan. So it's like, okay, I know my competitor, I know what they do, I know my market and the audience I want to go after and who they are, what their behavior is. Okay, now I'm going to build a marketing plan behind it, right? So if your consumer is somebody who is on their phone, then how are you going to get that message onto their phone, right? Mm-hmm. How are you going to make it native? How is it going to be not forceful? Also, I'm sorry, but how many realtors send you an email or post something on their social media that says, here's a market analysis, or charts that they downloaded from the broker and posted on it? Like, that doesn't mean anything. It has no meaning. There's nothing behind it. There's no context behind it, right? So a lot of us as business owners tend to do that. We just post because somebody told us that it's good to post on social media. There's no point behind it. You're just wasting your time, and I'm sorry, but you're wasting the reader's time as well, and you're wasting resources.
It's not personal. So I think I probably mentioned this to you last year. Towards the end of last year, I started to do video CMAs. Mm-hmm. I did, like so many people did, right?
Hold on. Explain to us what a CMA is. Some people who are not in the real estate might not understand that.
It's a competitive market analysis. It's basically to look in a period of time in the neighborhood with a house is located, how many homes have sold, how many homes are active, how many homes are pending, how many homes maybe didn't quite sell and have to be canceled or withdrawn, how many have to expire because maybe they were too ambitious with the price. So many reasons. It's just so a lot of people, a lot of agents says, hey, go to this website and get a free CMA. I mean, you can get a CMA in seconds if you go to Zillow.com. That's called the Sestimate, right? You can go there. You can go to Redfin. You can go to Realtor.com. I mean, all these websites. But what I did is I went ahead and created this video CMA. So what I did is I had my camera in front of me with my computer. I went and pulled the tax record of the person I was sending the video CMA. I went ahead and pulled the comparables. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. I will say keep it under 10 homes that have sold or are active in the neighborhood that compares to this one. And then just go through the properties, and record yourself. A good tool for this is called BombBomb. I love that BombBomb. It's really good for this. You can use that. There's some other tools. So you can just go ahead and do that. And they said, hey, Mr. Amir, Mr. Seller, I just want to go over, you live at 123 Main Street. I know that you've been thinking about making the move, but I just wanted to give you a market analysis of your property. So in the last couple of 6 months, these many homes have sold. And let's take a look at some of these homes that I think compared to yours. So look at this, and then you open the pic, you look at some of the description, how much they're asking, the square footage, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, levels, and so on. And then on top, you will look at to say, okay, now that I have all these, let's just take a look at the pictures to see how it compares to your house. So, and you do the slideshow of pictures, the virtual tour. So it probably will take a good 5, 10, 15 minutes, no more than that, to do something like this. And then you go on to prepare on the subject line. It was your home equity update for 2022, 2023, for last quarter, however you want to phrase it. And then just write something to say, hey, after reviewing this, it looks like, the average sales price in your neighborhood is this much. And then you send it over and the video gets embedded and it goes out. Now that is a whole different thing. That is crafted to a very unique person, right? That is crafted to a very unique person with very unique house, unique needs, wants, and wishes, and so on. So that is more personal. That is the type of market that we are in. Now, yeah, you don't have to deliver in a video, but let's be honest, video it's what we consume every day. So if somebody says I don't consume video, I think you're lying because you probably have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube.
It's not Twitter anymore. It's X. You got to call it X.
X. Okay. Sorry. Forgot about it. Anyhow, so I'm not a big Twitter guy. So that's the difference of the type of market we are in right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think even let's just say let's go even a little more simpler than that. Like if you wanted to talk about the state of the market, you could just record a video of yourself on your phone. Yeah. Like if you don't want BombBomb, if you don't want the tools, whatever it is, literally take your phone, put your AirPods in. If you don't have AirPods, if you have Samsung, whatever phone you have, like take your phone out, put it in front of you and talk about what the market is doing. Yeah. Exactly. And whoever resonates with it. And also, for the love of everything, stop worrying about, well, only 5 people like my video. It doesn't matter how many people like your video. All that matters is for one person to find you valuable and then they use you, and then they, like, especially in real estate, like, in our area, it's like one sale could make up so much. Like the return of investment could be so high. But at the same time, it's like if you're just chasing down likes and shares and comments and all this stuff, like it's going to be a never ending loophole of it. Let's cover the last 2 things because I do think it's important. I'm sorry. And then for the marketing plan, I do suggest you look at your analytics consistently. Look at what's bringing in the most clicks or click-throughs, or you'll hear us say CTAs or CTRs. So CTA is your call to action. What do you want them to do? And then your CTR is your click-through rate. So how many people are clicking through that call to action? And then whether it's getting on your calendar for a book call or it's you having a live conversation with, like, how are you doing that? And then make those adjustments. Do you need to do more workshops or less workshops? Do you need to do in-person events or out? Like whatever it is you need to do based on your consumer consumption, that I would suggest make those plans. The last thing, which is I think where a lot of people fail, is when it comes to their finances.
Oh yeah.
I think they just don't know. I don't think it's because they don't care. I think it's just not, to them at the time, it's not worth it.
Yes.
So one of the main things should be that you should project out what your 1, 3, 5 is. So what's your 1 year, what's your 3 years, what's your 5 year? Understand that you're not going to be profitable in the first year. I mean, if you are, that's amazing, right? I mean, that's great. You can invest back in your business or put money in your pocket. But I do think the biggest thing is you need to forecast the weather of what's coming your way. What is it going to look like if there's a shift in economic times or factors? And is that going to be a bear market? Like, I know you're you're planning for, you have multiple plannings. Like you have one that it's like, hey, if the market goes to this is what I do. If the market does this is what I do. And you have it broken down by the behavior of the market, right? And you're catching up with world events of what could potentially make those shifts and can't make those shifts. So one of the things I would say, and I, and you can take this however you want, RG. It's like with what feedback you want to give, but the biggest thing is like understand your P&Ls. If you don't know what P&Ls are, they're your profits and losses. It's simple. What are you bringing in? How much are you putting out? Right? Like I have $100,000 coming in next month, but I'm spending $250,000 of, between my staffing and overhead and So you are in the negative of $150,000 or $100,000. Or it's vice versa. I have this much coming in, but this is what's going out. The reason why it's so good to know that number is that how many months can you afford being in the red before you go out of business? And I think a lot of people, and we see this a lot in real estate because we see agents that don't act as entrepreneurs or business owners. We just see them as transactional people. That they're like, hey, if I do 10 transactions, I make this much money. But in reality, that's not how a business works, right? You need to be understanding like how much will it take me to do 10 transactions? How much money will it cost me? What type of marketing do I need to do? Am I doing like snail mail marketing or video marketing, whatever all that stuff is, right? So understanding your P&Ls is huge. Also own your own software. Like go invest in QuickBooks. Don't just hire a company that has their own software that's going to keep everything on their end, because you're at the mercy of however they take that information in and however they translate that information back to you. And if you ever want to leave that accountant, I'm sorry, but you are SOL. You are completely out of luck on it because you have no idea who hosts it, where they host it, how are they doing certain things. Are you getting the reports you're supposed to be getting? And then when it comes to making decisions on buying that new thing, whether it's an agent, an agency that does a service for you, or you just buying whatever it is you need to buy to do your business, you're not going to know. And before you know it, your bank account is overdrawn and you're looking at $20,000, $30,000 worth of a credit card debt, right? So from a business perspective, what are some things you look for when you're preparing for going into the next year of planning when it comes to your finances? Like how do you plan out your 1, 3, 5? And then also, what are the key things you look at when you look at your monthly P&Ls?
So the most important thing is you're going to have on your monthly P&Ls, you're going to have fixed expenses, right? So for a realtor, it should be the gasoline, the CRM, cell phone, all those things. So those kind of becomes like really non-negotiable because those are tools that you need. So you got to look into say, okay, so and the projection based on what it looks like I have in my pipeline, how much that is going to potentially bring, and how is that going to look like if you're going to make it or not. If you are going to be able to project that you're going to be, whether you break even or positive cash flow, then you can say, okay, now probably I can send these things. One thing that realtors are well known, it's because it's the difference on how their cash flow is. 1 month they're going to do this thing, another month they do another thing. So think about it. It's a seasonal business. So if most of your business is done between March and July or August or September, let's say, because that's when most people want to buy and sell a house, then maybe you need to put money aside for like October, November, December, January, so that you don't take a hit on your marketing, because it looks so awful when all of a sudden you have money in the bank and you start sending postcards, but when it comes October, you didn't budget for October, so you didn't send. So rather than you wanted to buy that, like, again, tools, you're going to need tools. But if you have a good laptop that is still working well and it's not crashing on you every day, then maybe you don't need to buy the laptop. And rather than invest that money in April when you have it, just put it aside. So say, okay, this is going to pay for 3 more mailers into the winter, right? And that's okay if you want to take a month off. Sometimes, you don't have to mail every month, but I will say at least 11 months should be your budget for those things. So you got to look into what's coming in. How many conversations are you having with people? I was just telling Amir before we started with this months of September, I did over 760 something phone calls, dials, over 700 phone calls. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I had like about 60 conversations, and 5 or 7 of these people are looking that wanted to do something in the near future. Near future means 12 to 18 to 2 years, some of them. So think about all those things. So if you're not taking actions on a daily basis to increase your pipeline, then you know what kind of hit you're going to be taking down the road. So
Right.
So look at your current actions, what you're doing to get more opportunities. Look at what you already have in the pipeline that is going to close. And your pipeline should always be less than 6 months, between 6 months and 12 months, and then between 12 months and 2 years. So those should be your pipelines where people should start coming in. So then you know, okay, the ones that are 6 months, I call them every two weeks. The ones that are over 6 months, once a month. The ones that are almost 2 years, I will call them, like every 2 months. Something, or they receive something from you. But this is, again, going to operations, going back to a plan, going back to how you're going to deliver all this information to these people.
Yeah.
So you have to do those things. So going back to the P&Ls, you really have to understand your numbers, understand your pipeline, understand the opportunities that you have. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say right now, you've been killing it in the real estate. You've done so well in the last few months, but the market all of a sudden just came to like going nowhere. Like it's just frozen, right? Nothing is happening.
Yeah.
So right now is not the moment for you to be overspending money because you don't know how long this is going to be. But at the same time, it's the moment for you to start investing in other things that maybe will give you the opportunity to connect with clients. Or maybe you have to get rid of those, that beautiful software that you bought that you thought was going to be the best thing that you're not using. Maybe this is the time to say goodbye to those things. So got to understand these things. And what Amir said is true. Invest in your own software. QuickBooks is not an expensive software, especially if you buy the whole year license. And for realtors, get used to buying things paid for the whole year up front and the months that you have a good cash flow. So that way you're not freaking out like how much money is going out every month. So if you can pay your upfront for your car insurance, your CRM software for the whole year, your P&L software or QuickBooks, your email drip campaign, your video things, try to pay it up front because you get a really good discount and you can do it in the month, like, let's say in April or May when you really have a good cash flow. You can do it in those months. So that way you can ensure yourself that you're going to have the tools that you need for for a whole year.
Yeah, I mean, I think, prepare for the winter months so you can, kind of flourish in the months that you are making a lot of money. And then I think segmenting your costs throughout will be helpful in anything you do. So takeaways, please look at your numbers. Your numbers are going to tell you if you're going to make it or not. It's that simple. And be truthful with yourself. Like when you look at your numbers, really ask yourself, like, is my business where it needs to be? Have an exit strategy, whether it's a amazing exit strategy where you sell your company for millions, or whether it's an exit strategy that it's like, hey, look, I'm about to run out of money. I've dried the well. I'm not bringing things in. I've tried to make X, Y, and Z changes. It's still not happening. Maybe this just isn't the right time, or this just isn't the right product or service I should be giving, right? So I would definitely make sure you know your numbers when it comes to marketing. Understand, your analytics, whether you have Google Analytics or other analytics software that you've invested in. Also know that a lot of the things you need when it comes to starting a business, there's a lot of free tools out there. Use those free tools. Just use them. Don't get consumed by the shiny objects. AI right now is it's such a shiny object, and of course it can be a wonderful tool if you know how to use it. But is your time best spent learning how to use ChatGPT or Bard versus you making phone calls? Like if I'm an agent and I'm competing with Robert Garcia and he's making 700 phone calls and I'm sitting here spending 700 hours on trying to learn ChatGPT, like who do you think is going to win that race? Right? Like work on your business. Don't work in your business. Find people that can actually help you. And when you're identifying what your expenses are, really be truthful with yourself. Do I think this is an expense, or do I think this is an expense? A lot of people tend to look at sales departments as an asset versus an expense, right? Like, I'm sorry, but your marketing and your branding should be more important than your sales department. Because if your marketing and your branding is working, your sales department is absolutely killing it, right? And then if there's a disconnect there, then that's a whole different conversation. But be truthful to yourself. Break down your SWOT analysis. What are your strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats? Really focus on what your consumer, what the audience you're going after is looking for, and how are they consuming that information. If it's an older clientele that needs snail mail or mailers, then you do that. If it's a younger clientele that consumes everything on a phone or a laptop or an iPad, do that as well. Understand the things that are trending. Like YouTube is becoming YouTube is a search engine at this point. It's the second largest search engine. Identify what can you do through Google to grow your business, and identify the things that are not going to cost you an arm and a leg when you get started.
Yep.
So those would be definitely some of the key takeaways I would say for this episode. We want to thank you for joining us. Again, as I mentioned before, Robert will be joining us from the episodes moving forward as kind of that extra set of eyes or set of mouth, we should say, or the extra mouth who's going to explain to us some things from such an operational and sales perspective. On 10/24, we are going to be live streaming. We'll release that information. We'll talk about what it is we're going to be talking about. But I think what we're going to really do is we're going to talk about a planning session. So we're going to really take people through how to do a SWOT analysis, how to identify your audience, what goes into identifying that, and then a problem and solutions chart that we use. And in that live, we'll release that document and that template to everybody that is there. If you want to sign up for that, you can go to agency270.com. And at the bottom, you'll see that there are plenty of places for you to sign up for upcoming events that we have. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have anything that you want us to discuss, feel free to send us an email at marketing@agency270.com. And then all of these emails and everything else will be at the bottom description of wherever you hear your podcast. And then we did a video cast this time around as well, so it'll be here as well. On the next episode, we're going to talk about SOPs, standard operating procedures. So we hope that you tune in 2 weeks to hear that episode. Without further ado, Mr. Garcia, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me again.
And thanks for listening. We will see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Bye.